Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. For those utilizing ASL interpretation services, our two interpreters today are Andrea Lamberton and Jillian Deaton. Their display names begin with ASL interpreter. If you would like CART closed captioning services, a link to that service was provided in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. For those utilizing ASL interpretation services, our two interpreters today are Andrea Lamberton and Jillian Deaton. Their display names start with ASL interpreter. Instructions on how to pin their video will be in the chat. For those utilizing CART closed captioning services, the link will also be provided in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Mohammed Khalid, and I am the interim chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I would like to call on the CCRB February board meeting to order. Thank you for joining us. Last week, Mayor Adam appointed Shireen Crawford to the board. Ms. Crawford is the Chief of Staff to the Center for Justice Innovation and began her career as a prosecutor in Manhattan. Ms. Crawford will be joining us at the March board meeting. Will the board please introduce themselves from the right?
Pat Smith, mayoral appointee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Esmeralda Simmons. I am from Brooklyn. I am a public advocate appointee.
My name's John Darsh. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the executive director of the agency.
Herman Merritt, City Council designee from Brooklyn.
Frank Dwyer, Police Commissioner designee.
Good afternoon. I'm Joseph Puma. I'm the City Council designee from Manhattan, and I go by he, him pronoun.
Thank you all. Adoption of the minute, seeing that we do not have a quorum, so we will push the approval of the January meeting to next month. I would like to begin today's meeting by wishing everyone a happy Black History Month. This is a time to celebrate the invaluable contribution Black Americans have made to our country, while also acknowledging the challenges this community continues to face, particularly in relation to the policing. The CCRB 2024 report released on Monday highlights that the Black New Yorkers are significantly overrepresented among victims of alleged police misconduct. While Black New Yorkers are made up of 20.2% of the city population, they account for 42.48% of alleged victims. The CCRB Racial Profiling and Bias-Based Policing Unit was established in part to address this issue and continue to work diligently to identify patterns of bias in law enforcement and investigate these sensitive cases. As I mentioned, the agency published our 2024 annual report on Monday. This report analyzes data on various aspects of agency operations throughout the year, including the complaint received, investigation quality, and officer discipline. A key takeaway is that 2024 saw the highest number of complaints filed in the past 12 years. Last year also set a high record, demonstrating that New Yorkers remain committed to exercising their right to civilian oversight. At the same time, we saw a decrease in investigation timelines, a testament to our investigation unit dedication to the increasing efficiency despite a high-end workload. Looking at the data of complaint and received in January, this trend appears to be continuing into 2025. Considering this, it remains crucial that the agency receives enough funding to meet this need and continue to serve the New Yorkers. On this note, I look forward to testifying at the Public Safety Committee budget hearing on March 11th. I will use this opportunity to advocate for the agency and request the funding necessary to ensure impartial and thorough investigation into the alleged police misconduct. I will now turn over to our Executive Director, John Darsh, to give us an update on the agency. John.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Darsh. I'm the Executive Director of the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and I use he, him pronouns. During our last meeting, Board Member Smith asked about the substantiated rate of complaints received in 2023. Of the 5,542 complaints received in 2023, the CCRB substantiated 764 complaints by the end of 2024. That leaves us with a 13.8 substantiation rate. We can compare this number to the complaints received in 2022. Of the 3,697 complaints received in 2022, the CCRB substantiated 541 complaints by the end of 2023. This is a substantiation rate of 14.6%. Therefore, while the number of complaints received in 2024 was more than 49% higher than in 2023, the change in the substantiation rate was less than 1%. As Dr. Khalid mentioned, one focus of his testimony at the upcoming budget hearing will be to advocate for funding to hire additional staff. It is equally important to focus on retaining our existing team and encouraging high-quality work. In 2024, there were delays in the promotion process for qualified investigators to go from level 1 investigator to level 2. Recently, the Office of Management and Budget denied the promotions of 4 level 2 investigators to level 3, citing insufficient time at level 2. This, despite the fact that the reason they had less time at level 2 was because the Office of Management and Budget had not processed their initial promotions. If the agency is to retain high-quality investigators, it is important that we reward and promote staff who do good work. The agency will continue to work with OMB to promote these high-quality investigators. Our office is open for walk-in complaints, but it is also possible to file complaints online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint, by telephone at 1-800-341-2272, by calling 311, or by tagging the agency on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For those wishing to speak during the public comment section of today's meeting, we ask you keep your questions and comments to 4 minutes. And if anyone wishes to file a complaint now, we have 2 investigators on hand ready to take new complaints. The investigators on call this afternoon are Emma Steidehar and Rob Bryan. If you guys could, they're both in the back. And Ruth Villafane is also here from the Civilian Assistance Unit. Thank you, Dr. Khalid.
The board has any questions?
Dr. Khalid, if I may, for Executive Director,
Yes, sir.
thank you for the research there. I mean, it is distressing. We're taking complaints, 5,600 complaints, and so many of them apparently are not valid. I mean, we're clearing, we're sustaining at a rate of 16 or 17%?
13.8.
13.8. So,
first of all, that is of all complaints we receive, not of fully investigated complaints. We closed 1,500 complaints this year without even looking at them, just because of the allegation that's alleged in them.
Right.
So if you look at the substantiation rate, it is right along where you would expect it to be.
Right.
In 2023, the NYPD arrested approximately 208,000 people. They convicted approximately 25,000 people. So our rate is better than the NYPD's rate if you're comparing the number of arrests to prosecutions and the number of complaints to substantiations. Or I just don't, what has happened is that this agency is better at determining whether or not conduct we get complained about is misconduct or not misconduct.
Yeah.
So you've seen the number of cases that we close as unable to determine
Right.
go way down.
Okay.
And that has caused an increase in the number of substantiated complaints, the number of complaints deemed within guidelines, and the complaints determined to be unfounded. But that's this agency doing its job.
John, I absolutely agree with you. Please do not misunderstand me. I find no fault with you, for the staff, with the agency. What I find troubling is how do we curb the number of spurious complaints coming into these agencies?
So,
Where
I think just because a complaint is unfounded does not mean it is spurious. Unfortunately, this city has a high incidence of unaddressed mental health issues. And so people may sincerely believe what they are complaining about, and it is not true. So just because something is unfounded does not mean it is spurious or malicious. And we're doing our job by getting those complaints and investigating them.
Yeah.
To me, a far bigger problem is when there is a complaint that comes in, and because of our resources, we can't even address it to begin with.
Well, and again, those resources are stretched because, John, I'm reviewing anywhere from 60 to 100 cases a month. And I'm seeing cases where, person makes an allegation against a police officer that the officer, made a racially insensitive remark and struck the complainant, and you get to the body worn camera footage and it never happened. And I say, how can someone do something like that? And how can they escape any penalty for perjury for having done that? I mean, it boggles the mind. And what you end up with is 5,600 complaints. You end up with a staff dedicated, working hard, overwhelmed by the number of spurious complaints.
So Pat,
Yeah.
with all due respect, that's just not true. The number of complaints that come in that we are able to fully investigate that turn out to be unfounded is not what is causing the increase in complaints, because the percentage of unfounded complaints has not increased higher than the increase to within guidelines or substantiated complaints. So the fact that we could go to the different reasons, we don't know why there has been an increase in complaints. I have ideas, but I have no proof. Like our look at the statistics has not revealed to us why there has been an increase. But there's no reason to think that it is an increase in unfounded complaints that's causing the rise.
I'd like to comment as well.
Did someone, so Ms. Simmons, I think John had raised his hand.
Oh, I'm
first
sorry.
online.
Sorry.
Mr. Siegel.
No, let Esmeralda go ahead first.
Thanks, John. I didn't see your hand. I see it now. The little yellow thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I would like to speak a little bit about, the spirit in which the comments are made are obviously concerned for the agency and for the city. But I also would like to challenge the use of the word spurious complaints, because that is a charge that is that is a word that is charged. That says that someone is deliberately making an allegation against a police officer, and they're trying to harm the police officer by making a complaint. I'm not saying that never happens. This is a wide, big city, and sometimes it happens. But most of the time, in the complaints that I have reviewed, and I've been here a long time, it seems to me, but not as long as John Siegel, and people make complaints because they believe that what the police officers did was unlawful, and particularly around a force. I'll just make up a situation. Unfortunately, this happens very often. The police, an officer, member of service, approaches a young person, gives the young person an order, asks for ID or whatever. The young person comments back on, makes a smart out comment, said, whatever they're going to say, and then refuses to give ID. The police officer says again, give the ID. It winds up that they don't give the ID. And then the police officer says, well, I'm going to take you in. And then they get into a scuffle. The scuffle then winds up with the person being slammed to the ground, be handcuffed because they're not cooperating, obviously. They think this is all wrong. And then when it comes before us, we see that the police officer followed the rules of the police department and what to do in a situation like that. That is not, in my opinion, a spurious complaint.
Right.
That's a complaint where the public is unaware of the power and the responsibilities of police officers and what they are charged to do in certain circumstances. And the public think that if they get slammed to the ground, that's excessive force. And it's not considered excessive force by police procedure. So I see many, many more of those cases than I do of somebody lying or somebody thinking something happened and it never happened.
So Dr. Khalid, in
John?
addition to Mr. Siegel, I think Joe Fox is also online with us now if you wanted to
Yes,
have him introduce himself.
okay. Joe Fox?
He was joining us via phone, so we'll reach out on how to unmute.
I don't think he's on.
He's not on. John, you have a question? John
Yes.
Siegel, board member.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. I don't have much to add after Ms. Simmons' very factual and specific presentation. I would only urge, as I have in our hearing panels, that there's a very big difference between finding that something doesn't meet the standard for a misconduct by a preponderance of the evidence on the one hand, and assuming that a witness or a complainant is providing false or certainly malicious information. And we see this both in terms of in dealing with investigations of both civilian statements and police statements. And I've urged that we have to be very careful and precise in the rare instances when there are allegations of false official statements by officers. And I think we need to be just as careful and precise before we start labeling civilians who come to this agency with complaints about policing and using words like spurious or malicious or false. And I think that the rates that you're describing show that this board by and large does a careful and good job. And I don't see that the number of unsubstantiated cases is a negative thing. I think it's indication of how careful and thorough we're being in the work. So I thank you for the opportunity. Nothing more.
Thank you, John. Joe Fox are you still there?
So
IT is still
Are you-
reaching out to be able to unmute him.
Should we wait for him or
hear me?
move on?
Yep. Can you hear me?
yes, now we
Hello?
can. Now we can.
Go ahead,
Sorry
yes.
about that. It's a different mute button. Joe Fox, thank you for catching it. I'm here. Joe Fox, NYPD Police Commissioner Rep. Glad to be here and thank you for this substantive conversation that I'll allow to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Go ahead. You have any comments?
No, I'm just listening carefully and thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Yes, sir.
Whatever the numbers, whether they be 10 or 1,000, there is no recourse when film shows that one allegation or multiple allegations did not occur. And it is certainly understandable that different people remember things different ways. But I have had enough cases where people said I was dropped on my head twice, for example. I was punched in the face multiple times, and we watched 5 films, 3 films, 8 films, and they weren't. So what my fellow board member is alluding to is these cases are real, whatever their numbers. Would be good to know their numbers. I mean, to some degree, it could come up under unfounded, but again, unfounded, I totally accept that different people remember things different ways. But that doesn't change the fact that there were some cases that there was more than one thing that one would think wouldn't be misremembered if it never happened. So I don't know what the appropriate recourse is, but it just does seem to me that fact that there is no recourse, maybe the recourse is a civil tort. I don't know, but it is not an issue.
So I just don't understand where the harm is to a member of service who has been accused of misconduct, and then we find that the misconduct did not occur. There's no harm there. Because we're saying definitively there was no misconduct.
Yeah, see, I disagree with you, and I'll give you one reason why. The fact that that these allegations themselves are then publicly put on the internet by some outside agencies who I guess spoil them, you can tell me. But when some child looks up their father and mother and sees that there have been 5 allegations against their father for beating up people, even if all 5 of them are unsubbed or exonerated, there is still harm there.
John, can I add to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Khalid. Yes, John, it is no harm in the fact that the case is found substantiated or unsubstantiated within the guidelines, but Frank is right. There's harm on multiple levels. There's sometimes a year to 18 months that the case is pending. The fact that even if it's within guidelines or unfounded, the case still exists. And you know that concept that you can't unsee something, as much as it should not weigh against selection for, choice assignments and things like that. The number's still there. And if a cop has 18 civilian complaints, I mean, we've seen cases where police officers are appropriately aggressive in communities where there's been organized, not so much organized, but a number of people making complaints to try and cool the activity down. And a cop like that could wind up with a lot of complaints. And then back to Frank, it's on the internet. So I think you're both correct.
If you look at what happens to police officers who have a large number of complaints, they get promoted. They end up running the NYPD. So I understand that it might feel badly, but in the
Right.
same way that we don't, like, there are oftentimes officers who come in and give a version of events that we determine is untrue, but we don't bring a untruthful statement allegation against them. We just substantiate the misconduct, right? Like, if we are going to somehow take punitive action against a civilian for giving incorrect information, then should we also take punitive action against members of service for giving incorrect information? Like, it seems like we are
Right.
trying to come up with a problem that there isn't one. We have complaints, we investigate them, and we make the best determinations we can. We are not perfect. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
In the same way that 3/4 of the people who are arrested don't get convicted. Only,
Yeah.
right? Like, these are numbers that happen when you have a large organization doing large numbers of investigations. And in any system where you're trying to make true false determinations, there are two kinds of errors. You can make a true determination when the event is false, and you can make a false determination when the event is true. And I think our system is set up properly to not come up with false positives.
Yeah.
But-
You know, John, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You know, like I said in the beginning of this, it's a very substantive conversation, and everybody who's spoken has made actually very correct and good points, including the beginning with Pat. And like Frank said, I'm not sure what the solution is. I hear the obstacles to just coming up with a blanket policy, John. Thank you.
John, can I ask you, you had mentioned there's 1,500 cases that are just dismissed out of hand or something that you mentioned.
Yes.
Tell us, how do you get to one of those cases? What are they?
So we have a strategic resource allocation determination, and there are approximately 9 allegations where if that is the sole allegation in the complaint, or if it is the, one second, because I have the list of those allegations in
That
front.
goes back to what we did is during the budget cutting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay, fine. That was it. I understand. Thank you.
Do you want me to read the allegations?
No, I
Okay.
understand it, yeah. I just, when you said it, the 1,500, I didn't know where it connected. Go ahead. You've connected the dot. Thank you.
I'd like to just follow up this in the line of reasoning of the conversation we're having, and I think it's very good we're having it at the public meeting, so I thank you for raising it.
Thank you.
Because one of the things I think that's the underpinning of this agency, and the reason why I'm willing to serve on it, is because the city's public has decided that they would like the public to have an opportunity to raise issues about policing in New York. And they want to encourage people to come forward, and we go to a lot of effort work to encourage people to come forward and make a complaint if they think that that the policing has not been correct. Some communities actually are still afraid to do that. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid that ICE is going to come get them. They're just afraid. They're afraid the police are going to come after them if they make a complaint against the police. But it has instilled some level of feeling of justice within the city populace, that the fact that the CCRB exists and is historically such a well-reputed organization, institution, agency, that they can actually bring the complaints, the investigations occur. People aren't always happy with the results, but they occur. They see people take them seriously, and this has been going on for over 20 years. And that's the reason this institution exists, is to instill within the public, the fact that they can say something if they think policing is not done correctly. We don't want to put a chilling effect on that. We'll have a hard enough time to get people to make complaints. What we don't want to do is to discourage people from making complaints by saying you're going to be punished if we find that what we found, that what you believe to true is not true. So I think that things are actually, we have a balancing act to do here. I think that officers may feel burdened, but the public, the people who make the complaint obviously feel burdened too. So I think the balancing act is one that we have to do. And of course, the burden is on us and fabulous staff to do a good investigation and make sure that police officers are cleared when the complaints are not substantiated, and to make sure that the public knows that if we find that there was something wrong, that we took action. Now, the only step missing is that we don't actually do the administration of discipline. And I'll pick up on that another time.
I agree with everything that Esmeralda says here, but I would say one thing. I think we would be better served. I think this city would be better served if complainants were required to give their statement under oath with a penalty for perjury. And again, if there's a misunderstanding, it gets cleared up. If it's not a misunderstanding, if it's a malicious act, then there's a penalty.
May I say something to some of this conversation? Hello?
Yes, I hear.
Yes, good afternoon. I just think really it is good to have this conversation in the public, but I think what Pat might be saying, and I don't mean to be facetious by saying that this is a civilian complaint review board, right? And civilians they trust us to make these complaints, and a lot of the complaints, that's a very low percentage to me, 13.8%, 14.2%, as far as that's substantiated to me, if we're going to correct misconduct. Right now, I have a commanding officer at my precinct who had 17 allegations and 5 of them substantiated. 2 weeks ago, he's promoted inside Southeast Queens into 113 precincts. So the things that are on their records, although it might say, I think it was John, I don't know who was, I think it was Frank that made a statement about that mommy and daddy, the kids would see that they're saying something wrong about the environment. This officer, this commanding officer, is the deputy inspector now at 113 precinct with those allegations and with those substantiations. I think we do a good job here at the Civilian Complaint Review Board of trying to look at the facts objectively and then putting our requests. Unfortunately, as Esmeralda said, that even if we put in our request, and this is why we'd have to annihilate even the concept of someone being charged with perjury, because even if we put in our request, the police department has the final call here. And my last statement is that if we're going to say, take a position, maybe there needs to be another board where there's a police review board where they see things, and we have the power to see whether or not somebody that might make a false allegation, and we'll look at was it intentional, or was somebody that was experiencing trauma and don't know exactly what happened to them at that time. Because when someone's hitting you on your back and turning you over, you might think you got punched in your face. You might think you was chokehold held. So there's a lot of things that we have to look into before we make some of these wide statements about charging the public who we're trying to gain trust to say that we're going to do the right thing and look at all these cases. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
I just want to add, lest the public misunderstand, and John, you said a lot, so I would suggest that I just want to make sure there's not a misinterpretation. If there is evidence that a police officer in his or her interview intentionally lied to the investigator here, we do recommend charges, correct?
Yes.
Because I think there was enough complexity in your explanation that some could have understood it otherwise.
Okay.
I encourage you to watch, go to the video later.
Exactly.
Third base.
Anybody else have any question? Well, the agency has been established 30 years ago by Mayor Dinkins, and certain things were put into, and we are lucky, the New Yorkers are very lucky that we have an independent agency and we have great staff that the complaints comes into the system and they look into it. I mean, we added another untruthfulness beside federal. So we look at every complaint, and I think the staff looks at it, the investigator looks at it, the board looks at it. Yes, we are not 100% perfect. We can make mistakes. But I think that my colleague here said that if we prevent people from complaining, making a complaint, and telling them that this will be the penalty, I guess people will not come to complain. Even they will just hold that thing in their head, in their heart and head, and say that, no, I will be penalized for that, making a complaint. So I think we are lucky that this agency is there to help the New Yorkers. And I am proud of the board members and also John Dosh, that he's been a great executive director and trying to run the agency in a proper way so that we can help the New Yorkers with a better investigation. So I noted all these things. We'll discuss that. The issue, Pat, of asking the complainant signing a document, I think that will be better that we discuss that and send it to the law department here and let them their input in it, that whether technically or we can do this thing without any penalties to the CCRB. And so I will definitely have all the board discuss on this, and maybe we can get an opinion from the law department.
I will, our general counsel is sick with COVID, so he is not here today, but I will let Matt know, and he will reach out to the law department. Dr. Khalid, there were two board members who joined us online who have not had the opportunity to introduce themselves. If you wanted to call on Ms. Northern and Ms. Brown.
Go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm June Northern, a mayoral appointee from Brooklyn. Sorry I couldn't be there today.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlene Brown. I'm a police commissioner designee. Unfortunately, I'm under the weather, so I didn't want to spread that to the audience and our board members, but happy to be online.
Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He did, I think he did.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Joe, you introduced yourself earlier. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we go further? Now I would like to ask.
Sorry, I just want to make one more comment to emphasize the point I made. To the best of my knowledge, the NYPD is the only city agency that is required to post the disciplinary records of the agency. And then, of course, as we know, other people take them and put them on the internet forever. Well, I guess it's up to whomever, the council or whoever, whether to post that, but we don't even do that.
So if we have disciplinary cases that go to oath, where every other city agency has their case go to oath, oath posts those disciplinary hearings online. You can go find every other agency's disciplinary matters at the oath website.
But we don't post. I mean, I can do a search through and write.
But we aren't, because, but you said that they're not available. Those disciplinary records are available. If someone goes to oath for a trial, they get tried, that'll be there. So I guess only the most serious ones.
My point, though, that the transparency we demand of the police department, even we don't emulate. And when I say we demand, I guess it was the city council who passed the law to do it. But, why not every city agency? I mean, We publish, even if the officers get instructions, even if they get a Schedule A, we publish it, we make it public. You know,
Unfortunately, I think that's because of the duty that police officers have to serve and protect. I think that's why people feel that they want to know that there are allegations against officers, because we feel that they may not take that duty that we all want them to take seriously as we take it. As great as the staff of the CCRB are, they're not yet serving.
Any other questions? It's a nice, interesting discussion. I'm sorry.
Yes, and it goes to the core of what this agency is about.
The next item is the outreach presentation by Director of Outreach, Jahi Rose. Jahi?
Hello, good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Jahai Rose. I'm the Director of Outreach for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm going to provide a brief overview of our agency. The Civilian Complaint Review Board is a city agency. We are the largest oversight entity over the largest police force in the country. CCRB investigates, mediates, and in some cases administratively prosecutes allegations of misconduct alleged against members of the New York City Police Department. Our agency is governed by a 15-member board, many of which you've met today, that are comprised of members that are appointed by the mayor, 5 members that are appointed by the city council, 3 that are designated by the police commissioner, and 1 that is appointed by the public advocate. The chair is jointly appointed by the mayor and the city council. The CCRB can investigate allegations of abuse of authority, force, discourtesy, and offensive language. The helpful acronym is FATO. As previously mentioned, if you'd like to report misconduct, there are a few ways to do it. 2 of the easiest ways are to file that complaint online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint. You can also file that complaint by calling the CCRB's hotline, 1-800-341-CCRB or 1-800-341-2272. Remember, if you see footage of police misconduct on social media or on news media, you file a complaint even if you are not there in person. The typical CCRB the typical CCRB handle is at CCRB_NYC. Additional ways to file a complaint include calling 311. You could also come to the CCRB's headquarters at 100 Church Street. That's on the 10th floor in New York, New York, zip code 10007. You could also go to a local police precinct. It does not have to be the precinct where the incident took place. Police officers are required to accept the complaints in the precinct. You could also just ask for a self-addressed envelope and a complaint form, and you could send that complaint directly to the agency. You could also file a complaint online, and you can go to our agency's social media platform to file the complaint as well. If you'd like to request a CCRB presentation by our outreach team, feel free to request that presentation by sending us an email to outreach@ccrb.nyc.gov. Also, feel free to follow us on our social media platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or X. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jai. When the budget allows us, I'm sure as the outreach, we will certainly be going into all the boroughs and have the public meeting there in every borough. But that we cannot determine until there's a lot of preparation and a lot of resources needed. So when we have enough budget, we will certainly make that effort to go into every borough and do the public meeting. Now we will enter into the public comment portion of the meeting. We'll begin with those joining us virtually who would like to make a comment, followed by those who are joining us in person. For those joining virtually, please use raise your hand feature. Please keep your comment to 4 minutes. Egeria?
First online, we'll be hearing first from Elijah McCormick.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Elijah McCormick. I'm just, a member of the public and also have filed complaints myself. I've complained myself that's been substantiated. And I wanted to respond on the topic I was mentioning about possible having a means to, I guess, filter complaints that come in to make sure that, the obvious what seems to be obvious complaints of lies about an officer or accusation against an officer, that they don't meet the desk, and that it doesn't increase the number of complaints that needs to be reviewed. I want to respond to that by saying I hope none of the staff member, board members are motivated by the sense of overwhelming of cases to oversee and misdirecting that frustration to people and civilians or the public who are making these complaints. Because as we know, as this last meeting that I've reviewed, that the CCR board is actually missing board members that could be helping and assisting with these cases. And there's only a specific people, I believe it was a mayor, Eric Adams, and then there's other people who's supposed to have been appointed for a seat that you're not occupying all 15 seats. So I can understand when your cases are being overloaded on your desk and you may feel overwhelmed. But I hope that each and every one of our board members doesn't take that frustration and mistarget it towards the people who are making the complaints. And number two, I also want to make mention that you gotta realize this. It sounds like to ask that there be some type of penalty for a blatant lie against an officer. It sounds like what we asking for is citizen accountability. When the board is that the reason for CCRB existence is for police accountability. When I was arrested, penalty was given to me by accusation, a false accusation, without any trial, without any review, without any, a third party oversight. And I was placed in handcuffs and placed in a cell. And I had to wait to get, I was not trusted enough, to move about freely until I see a judge. Pretty much, I felt I was penalized for somebody else's false accusations. And when my charges was dismissed, that record's still there. And from my understanding, there is still records of this dismissal on my record for the false allegation of this officer. And I believe that, and also it affected my job. The arrest affected my job. So I don't really think that we should even entertain a concept of accountability to be a place of responsibility to hold citizens or people who put the complaints in accountable when there's so much power and so much immunity and lack of accountability when an officer makes the exact same allegation as we so-called saying that citizens are doing. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, because this, if I'm understanding, this is a board for police accountability and not civilians accountability.
Thank you, sir. Noted very well. And John, you want to have anything to? No.
I think this gentleman said it better than I did earlier, so we should have just called on him.
Next on line, Nigeria.
Thank you, Chair. Currently, no more folks have raised their hand. So that concludes the online portion of the public session.
Thank you very much. For those joining us in person and are interested in making a public comment, please line up here at the podium and please keep your comments to 4 minutes.
So would you like to speak first? Come on up. Can you speak into the microphone so people can hear you?
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't want to just speak for everything I have it before. I want to just ask some question. Maybe you can just let me understand what's going on. Because you said you run this agent and as much as you can.
Sorry, you have to give us your name.
Oh, sorry. Because I know that I'm famous right now. Everybody know me.
No?
No.
Now, trust me, everybody in the street. Asma Abdullah, trust me. Okay, it's my name, Asma Abdullah. I need to understand if you said that is you trying to run your agency so much as much better or whatever anything, and they dismiss some stuff and they just close it. Depend about what from where you get the clue or whatever, they get the evidence or get the proof from where, and even you get it. Why you don't want to show it to the other people you have something against him or them or any person to let us know that this is truth or not? How we didn't know that they make something like fake or using the AI or using some stuff, because that is what happened to me, because I'm trying my best to understand what's going on. It's not only for the situation you have it before. It's I figured out recently that they already distribute some picture from different cases before. And I didn't even understand what is the reason. Even I didn't understand why. Every single time I called them to get help, they come to arrest me. Like that, they love me so much. That's why I love them so much too. And at the same time, I'm trying to understand from where he gets this stuff, because I'm asking everybody, he gave me that is what they have against us. They said, we don't have something against you. How come that is even we're gonna go to take our right from the lawyer? They come like crazy behind us. They give them some fake information, fake report, fake a lot of things. And after that, they said that we are criminal. Okay, we are criminal, we are terrorist, we are everything. So why you don't want to show it to us? And they just said, you are there. You are just in this situation, or you done this situation, or whatever you did this criminal stuff. So why? I need to understand, because every single time right now, and they always like that before Ramadan, before any holy month, they keep continuing squeezing us too much to bother us to make anything is wrong. They try their best to make us so crazy. Anything is wrong. They try just to prove that we are just like criminal. Even back home, everybody in this meeting, they understand that if you want to help us, I know for sure that they will help us. But I'm sorry to say something like that. Everyone in this room, they don't want to like to help us. Just listen, close the case. It's not related to us. Give it to IB. The IB close it. Never just call us for anything. Recently, I called to make a report. They just, without even I didn't finish my complaint, they transferred at the same moment to the IB. How come like that? That's why I'm always mad. And the people who, when I get nervous, oh, they see she's psycho. Okay, I'm psycho. I don't care about the people. They say something like that. They don't have what I have. They don't feel what I felt. So I don't care about anyone. I care that about, I need the truth. If you have something, just give it to me, show it to me. Why you just hide it? Why always behind us? Why always just following us? Why always you see something not true? I already keep continuing calling the IB. Please, if you have something against us, show it to us. I want to see. If I did something wrong, punish me. They said, we don't have something against you. So why you follow me? Why every single time I call you to get help, you come to arrest us? Just because I didn't afraid from you? Okay, I'm not gonna afraid of anyone from you, because I know myself. I'm proud of myself. After even they do a lot of arrests, even they gonna kill me, I'm proud of myself. I'm not gonna afraid of them. The only thing I needed, I need the truth. You are here, so why you don't wanna help us? Because I know that if you really make serious investigate, or you make something is really serious, you will show that everything and you will know the truth. But I'm sorry to say something like that. You keep continuing like, oh, this people is not like in our related, like it's not our family, or maybe not from anyone related to us. So you didn't care about us. That's why they keep continuing bother us. And I'm sorry to say that they didn't even respect the CCRB. They didn't respect anyone from the government. That's why they keep continuing that they want to let us, okay, do you see, we will approve that. We're going to keep continuing to bother you until you're going to give up, until you're going to kill yourself. But that is not going to happen. It's going to happen in their dream, because I am already religion and I respect my religion. And I never going to do something wrong. Even I'm going to do something wrong, trust me, I can prove that I do it because it's mine. Like, I don't want to just waste the time for nothing. Just the only thing.
Time, you have 4 minutes. Yes.
Okay, so
4 minutes past and
that is
can you conclude, please?
okay. That is fine. Just give me just the result or whatever. Give me any answer for my question because every single time like that. That's
I
fine.
thought last month you came in and you expressed yourself and this was not related to CCRB. It was related to
The Commission on Human Rights.
human rights.
And we are, oh,
Behind up and even the lot of time be pushing me from my bed and people think
Well, the religious part of the issue, like the executive director said that it's a human rights, commission that you need to, and I think we were trying to help you with that, John.
so Mr. Rose has been working to get someone at the Commission on Human Rights to hear your complaints about the restaurants and your place of worship where you've had issues. If you're saying that police have been coming up behind police, not civilians, if you're saying, so Rob, sorry, Rob, but you're the one in my eye line. So if you would go talk with Rob and explain to him when a police officer has committed misconduct against you, allegedly, then we will investigate that. But we have to this time, you haven't given us reason to think that it's police officers and not the private institutions, whether they're houses of worship or restaurants. But Rob, if you could talk with this individual and get her information, and if we can sort it out, and there are allegations against police officers, we will investigate them. So go talk to the investigator.
Thank you very much. Is the next person?
Hi, thank you for mentioning Black History earlier, Black History Month. My name is Mari Moss. I'm the mother of Kalia, Sophia, and Anya. I serve on the Task Force to End Gender and Domestic-Based Violence, and I serve on a community action board that gives federal funding to nonprofit organizations within the community. I want you to imagine something. Imagine being handcuffed, shackled at the ankles, trapped in a system that is supposed to protect you. Now imagine electricity surging through your body, not because you were a threat or not because you had committed a crime, but because those in power decided they could get away with it. I don't have to imagine it because it happened to me. In May, I was brutalized by the very people who were sworn to uphold the law. I was wrongfully arrested on illegal court orders, shackled, and then subjected to intimidation, psychological abuse, and finally electrocuted, all while I was restrained, unable to defend myself. I want to be clear, this was not an accident. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a system flexing its power, trying to silence me, trying to strip me of my dignity, my rights, my humanity. But they failed because I am standing here. But not everyone gets to stand here and tell their story. Some are stolen from us too soon. And today I want to take a moment to honor Robert Brooks, a life lost to the same broken system we are fighting against. Before I say another word, I ask all of you to join me in a moment of silence for Robert Brooks and for every victim of police brutality who should still be here with us today. I am here today because I survived, but survival is not enough. Justice is the only answer. And I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for every mother, every woman, every person who has been brutalized and ignored, for every survivor of domestic violence who dares to stand up and demand protection only to be met with punishment instead. The real question is, How many more of us will it take before the system is held accountable? How many more mothers will be torn from their children? How many more of us have to suffer before something actually changes? I'm here today to say no more. No more courts weaponized against survivors. No more police using their badges as shields for abuse. No more children being separated from their mothers who fought to protect them. And if you sit here and listen, but you do nothing, you are complicit. If you have the power and refuse to use it, you're part of the problem. So I ask you, what will you do? Will you let another mother be silenced? Will you let another woman be shackled and electrocuted while pleading for her rights? Or will you stand with me and fight with me and make sure this never happens again? I was just at a meeting last month with Council Member Althea Stevens, thank you. And she, had people in the room talking about how they were brutalized by police officers in Rikers Island. If you would have heard some of the things that people were saying happened to them at Rikers Island, the human rights violations and the overwhelming abuse, we have to do something about holding people accountable. And to sit here and listen to the fact that a lot of these officers get promoted after they have 17 offenses. You can go through the list. I just sat here and went through the list, and you see a repeat of the same names over and over again, and there's nothing being done about it. So we're looking to you as the agency that Mayor David Dinkins enacted, that we need to hold police accountable. So I ask you to please do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Just a question that, have you filed any reports on this thing with the CCRB? Just curious, yes? And did you receive the results or?
I last checked on. When I went onto the online and to check on my case, it said that the information was not available at the moment.
Ms. Moss, I'll have Rob check on that for you, or Emma. Emma will go check on it and get you, if you go talk to her right now, she'll get you the updates on your case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we come to is.
There's
anybody? Yes.
one more person
One
back.
more person. Sure, please come in. Sure.
Good afternoon, Andrew Case, supervising attorney at Latino Justice Proldef, he, him pronouns. Happy Black History Month. I want to talk a little bit about the punishment for unfounded cases issue that has come up. This has been something that has been discussed at the CCRB as far back as the 1992 City Council hearings. I think people should go read those. There are very good reasons that people are not prosecuted for perjury for complaining about police officers. It creates a terrible disincentive and scares people off to believe that they will be arrested if they raise issues with police, because they do not trust that they will be heard fairly and that they will not be subject to retaliation. And it's not special to police officers. My sister's a New York City high school teacher. You will not be surprised to learn that people file complaints against New York City high school teachers that turn out to be unfounded. People file complaints against taxi drivers that turn out to be unfounded. And we believe in this city that the city employees are mature enough and able enough to withstand the possible hard feelings of being accused of something, particularly if they are eventually exonerated or unfounded. When I was the spokesman for the CCRB, Paul Brown, who was the DCPI, called me a liar in the New York Times, and I had no recourse against him. I just had to grow up about it. So I will say, if you look at the body-worn camera and a complaint is truly unfounded, maybe you can find a way to not bring the police officer in for an interview, just to have them be interviewed and then unfounded. That could be a time waste. But the idea that their feelings are so special and other New York City employees' feelings have to withstand this, it creates this sort of special notion that police believe and are entitled to something different. In fact, police officers have special responsibilities. They have special duties. They carry guns. They can arrest people. They should be held to a higher standard than just about anyone else in the city. Possibly Department of Corrections and the things that you say about Rikers are particularly horrible in there. On transparency about these complaints, one of the reasons that there is such transparency now about police complaints is that for 30, 40 years, there was a law on the books specifically exempting police misconduct complaints from FOIL, Civil Rights Law 50A, which kept anyone from knowing anything about what actually happened in places like the CCRB. And the response to the repeal of 50A has been a large demand to know what actually happens. And you could FOIL the Department of Education and find out a teacher's complaints. It's not posted online unless they go to oath, but it is publicly available. And the reason it's posted for the NYPD is there's a long history involved of people not disclosing that. I'm going to speak very briefly about what I was going to talk about before I hear other things in the meeting, which is the short statute of limitations and the retaining of cases under Section 2 of the MOU. I saw that the January stats are much, much better for discipline than they have been. I hope that is a trend that is going to continue. Michael Gerber has told me it is. Jessica Tisch has said it is. I hope that that's actually true and they're not blowing smoke. But I think you should be watching very closely the police department's failure to punish officers when you find that they have committed misconduct. We are currently suing the NYPD over a case where you substantiated an allegation and they dismissed it, even though there was no ongoing criminal investigation and the officer had previous complaints. And the NYPD is saying that we don't have the right to bring that suit. We believe we do on behalf of James Harvin, who was tased unlawfully, and you guys substantiated it. But if the NYPD continues and prevails in that regard, the only people that can hold it accountable are you. This NYPD has acted arbitrarily and capriciously in dismissing complaints. And if it comes to it, you should consider bringing action against them for that. Thank you guys all so very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Anybody else to speak? If none,
Mr. Chair, may I offer a statement under old business, please?
absolutely, please, that's what we're going to do, old business.
I'm sorry. Colleagues, the CCRB D panel scheduled for February 26th was canceled because there were not enough CCRB members to fill the panel and vote on the cases. Now, we learned today there has now been a new appointee, but didn't know that when I wrote this. This is the second time in 5 months a D panel was canceled because of a lack of CCRB members. A brief explanation. Under the New York City Charter, the CCRB should have 15 members. Currently, there are only 11 members. By next month, we hope to have 12, because the mayor and city council have not made appointments. These members are divided into 3-member panels, each of which reviews 50 to 60 cases a month by computer. Each panel meets virtually once a month and votes to accept or revise the recommendation of the CCRB staff, which has investigated the cases. Right now, there are 3 panels reviewing cases instead of 5. Hundreds of civilians are waiting for justice, most for 15 months or more, because we're missing 4 CCRB members. After this new appointment, we're still missing 3. Each month, there is a D panel, 50 or 60 cases in which CCRB staff investigators have cleared the officers of the charges against them. In 99% of these cases, the 3 CCRB members on the D panel vote to accept the staff recommendation and the officer is cleared. In many cases, charges are made against several officers. So now there are up to 100 officers whose names will not be cleared because we do not have enough CCRB members to do the job. Up to 100 officers who wake up every morning, often for more than a year, wondering about the CCRB case against them. Some of these officers have pending promotions, which are delayed until the CCRB case is cleared. Some officers have transfers, which are delayed until their name is cleared. Some of these charges are based on honest misunderstandings of police work. In many cases, however, these officers are victims of malicious lies by people who just want to stick it to a cop. They can do that because there is no punishment for a member of the public to lie to the CCRB. There is no requirement for complainants to swear to the truth of their statement. Anyone can make the most outrageous allegations against a police officer, and it can take more than a year for the officers to have his or her name cleared by CCRB members voting in 3-member panels, especially the D panel. Our mayor and our city council must do their duty and appoint members to the CCRB. We have a solemn obligation to our citizens, including our police officers, to administer justice in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Let me say this thing that we have a new board member joining us next month. So we are working on to get more board members. We're going to be making a request to the mayor and to the speaker to put more members as required by law so we can do the work needed by the panels. So I assure you that we'll work on that as soon as possible to remind them that this is a important step needed to fulfill all the board members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
Any new business that we have before the board? Hearing none, I'm going to move now that we break into executive session. The agenda for the executive session is the executive director will discuss pending personal actions, and the general counsel, who is not here today, will be having some updates regarding the pending litigation.
Mr. Chair, I'll fill in both roles.
Okay. Thank
Way
you,
to
sir.
go, Joe.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.